Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books, and I have another 3 books on a theme topic today. It's been 2 or 3 months, probably 3 or 4, I don't know. It's been a while, but I posted a video going through all of my literary fiction on my bookshelf here in China. Because one of my goals for this year is to get back into literary fiction. I love literary fiction, but for some reason during the COVID, I gravitated to nonfiction and read a lot of nonfiction and not much fiction at all for 2 or 3 years. And the fiction I read was mostly more genre fiction, so I'm getting back into literary fiction and really loving it. But I ask you to pick the book that you thought I should start first from my literary fiction on my bookshelves here. And these were the top 3 vote getters. So, The Trees by Percival Everett, The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell, and The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. So, little backstory on these. So, Carson McCullers has been on my shelf the longest, I believe. This was just one that I had heard the name pop up a lot over the last few years. Southern fiction, which I absolutely love, being a Southerner from the Southern U.S. myself, and a few comparisons to To Kill a Mockingbird, which is still my all-time favorite read. So really had been wanting to read this one, but have always been hesitant. Like, I keep not picking it up because of the To Kill a Mockingbird references. Just kind of not wanting to be disappointed, you know? So there's that one. And then The Sparrow has also been on my shelves for 2 or 3 years now. I picked this up at a used bookstore. I had heard, I don't know if I'd even heard much about it at the time that I picked it up, but it looked interesting, and I tend to Google things when I'm at used bookstores and check out what other people have said. And then since then, I have had several BookTube friends mention that this is one of their favorites, so been wanting to read that one. And then The Trees last year got so much hype and really intrigued me with, again, the Southern aspects and the social platform and the satire edge. I'm really into that. So these were the 3 that got the top pick. Now, The Trees was the number 1 pick, and I don't think that was because everybody loved it. I think it was because everyone knew I wanted to read it. Like, I made a point of saying, everyone, I want to read this one, so they accommodated me. But also, I think because it was so hyped in the moment, maybe that might have played into it as well. But yeah, I tried. If you watch the video I posted, was it yesterday? No, yesterday was the journal. The day before, the TBR talk, I have asked for your help to pick my next read again, this time between 3 really chunky literary fiction works. So if you haven't voted yet, I haven't picked it up yet, so there's still time to vote on the May TBR talk between 3 literary picks again. But this one I picked up first, and it did not disappoint. I loved this book so much. I adored it. And if you read it, it is incredibly crass. There are a lot of gory scenes from incredible brutality. Like, the brutality isn't depicted within the book, but you see the after effects. And what happens is it's a criminal investigation. And a caveat, you do have to suspend your beliefs for the criminal investigation, because there's an obvious plot hole there. But I think that's part of the satire. Anyway, this is murder scenes, and you've got these two black FBI agents coming to the Deep South to investigate these murder scenes, because the good old boys, white boys, are not cutting it with the investigation. And it is based on the lynching of Emmett Till. So Emmett Till is one of the bodies that shows up at each murder scene, along with a white man who's been brutally murdered. And again, it is incredibly gory and incredibly crass. So if those two things bother you, don't read this. Or if you do and you think, Doris, what were you thinking? I apologize, but I really, that doesn't bother me. And I laughed out loud several times through the first half of this book, because the satirical depictions of the South that I grew up in are on point. Oh my gosh. And the Southern language in here is just rich. It is perfect. I adored it. I love hearing my lingo, my dialect. I love hearing it through the written word. It just brings joy to my heart. So yes, this book really worked for me. I really liked what it had to say socially, and good stuff. And also, I do love satire. I love Southern lingo, and I love satire, and I love funny that's done well to my... Everybody has their own idea of funny, right? So this funny works for me. And, it wasn't funny. Toward the end, it got more serious, more effective. I mean, it was effective throughout, but more focused on what it was saying. But this one worked for me so well. Then I picked up Carson McCullers' The Heart of the Lonely Hunter. Again, this one is supposed to be Southern lit. And I was sad. Okay, so this is centered around originally two gentlemen who are deaf and thus do not speak. And in the era in which this was written, that's referred to as deaf and dumb. And I just, I didn't get the opening where, they're best friends, apparently, but I think one of the friends puts more energy into the friendship than the other. And he gets sick, and this illness changes his personality, and there's no explanation for how or why. It just does. So he is eventually, after causing problems in the community, is eventually institutionalized. Sorry, I got caught, so I'm trying to find another quiet spot to finish this. This looks good, right? Oh my, where am I even? Wow, I never knew this existed. It's like a graffiti art project. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of glad I got caught. Look at that. Okay, apparently I'm talking too long, so let me try to get this done real quick. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, I didn't understand the friendship and what happened there. And then the two gentlemen, the one that stays and that's more in tune is a black man. And again, this is in the Deep South. And so all of these other people become attached to him. Like, he is really lonely without his friend and in his silence, but other people find that they can talk to him, like basically just spilling their guts to someone who doesn't really respond more than, through his persona. But anyway, so it's like a diner owner, and this little girl in the community, and this guy that keeps coming to this diner and like getting drunk every day, a traveling salesman, and I think there was another one, but anyway, I was just like bored with all of them. I did not care. And the thing that bothered me also was that it was just like, I kept reading how the prose in this was so beautiful, but it had no Southern dialect. It was so flat. Like, the dialogue was so flat to me. So yeah, I read about a third of it and then I DNF'd it. So that was like really disappointing to me. Anyway, and so then I picked up The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. And this one is sci-fi, and it is, we don't make contact, we hear this beautiful music coming from the universe, and realize that we've figured out that there is indeed intelligent life out there. And so the Jesuit community, the Jesuit institution, or whatever, the word is not coming to me, but this Jesuit corporate body decides to fund a mission to this planet, and they travel there on an asteroid that they've like carved a little cave home inside of, and it's just a friend group that goes, like, for real, like, it's just a friend group that goes. They have no formal, like, they all have their abilities, but they don't, like, I mean, they do train to go, but it's a friend group. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? And like, I had just read, not The Martian, but Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I think it's Andy Weir. It's an A Weir. But anyway, the science in that was just incredible. Like, the physics department here at school used it as their book club pick last semester, and talked about all of the science in it. And I just really, like, before they made me start teaching chemistry, I was writing the resource material for that project and just really enjoyed it. All the deep dives into all this science. So I love that. And this one, so let me tell you the things I loved about it. I loved the characters. The characters in this were just so, like, you sunk into them immediately. They were so well drawn and so rich, and you really cared a lot immediately. So the characters are very immersive. The plot is definitely interesting, and it's very thematic, obviously. So depending on, not obviously, but it's literary fiction. Even though it's genre fiction, it's very literary. So it's rich thematically. So depending on how you look at it, this speaks to, like, colonization and or slavery and or animal brutality. So, depending on your lens, you can get a lot out of this, which I did. It's a lot to think about in here. But I think, like, I don't know, if you've been around a while, I love fantasy fiction, and I don't really read sci-fi much at all. And I never really, like, I thought it was because sci-fi bored me, but again, I really loved the Project Hail Mary. So I think, like, I definitely don't like too much techie sci-fi. I like the more biological sci-fi, which I've always known that. Um, However, I think another thing that bothers me about sci-fi is that the science pulls me out of the story. Like, the science in this book was just incredibly faulty. And so, for example, they just landed on the planet and walked out of the asteroid. And I was just like, so I think every time the science is discussed, and I was like, it pulled me out of the story. Whereas with fantasy, for me, I know it's fantasy, so it doesn't pull me out of the story because I know it's a joke. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that I thought that was super interesting, a little endeavor with these three literary fictions. So one that was super current that I was dying to read, and two that I had heard a lot about and had put off reading for quite some time. So one I adored, one I really liked, and one that I DNF'd. So there you go. I gotta go back to my room now and start getting ready for my day. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye. Little bee. Ooh, how you doing? Having good times in the flowers.